Marvel has gone from flop to flop as of late, and as a result, a number of Marvel Studios employees, at the very least 15, have been let go. As nice a virtue signal to the markets as that may be, I'm here to tell you why that won't help one bit. Variety writes in their April 15th piece, Marvel laid off 50 staffers on Monday, which is code for that they were actually let go on Friday. The trades only reported it on Monday, including lower-level production and development employees in Marvel Studios in Burbank, as well as employees in the Marvel Entertainment division in New York. That's significant. The layoffs were predicated by the overall reduction in Marvel's slate of film and TV titles after the challenges of the 2023 releases led the company to reassess the rapid increase in productions to feed the launch of Disney+. Because, as you all know, that is the accepted excuse for the undeniable lack of quality which turned Marvel Studios into a certified bomb factory. Implication being that Bob Chapek rushed a bunch of projects for Disney Plus during the lockdowns. Never mind that they were all Kevin Feige's pet projects that were announced under Bob Iger's regime prior to the lockdowns. Never mind that Bob Iger even wrote a book where he claimed credit for this strategy. Never mind that Kevin Feige and Kevin Feige alone had full creative control. None of those inconvenient facts will be brought up by the trades, so let's just move on. These firings are also meant to address Disney's decision in March 2023 to absorb the Marvel Entertainment banner, which had operated as an independent unit, into other divisions of the company, which created redundant positions. The latter decision has already led to the dismissal of Ike Perlmutter from his position as chairman of Marvel Entertainment, as well as 2 other top executives. And presumably, these would be 2 top executives that were close to Perlmutter, and therefore on Kevin Feige's shit list. That is relevant here. Let's take a momentary break from Variety and revisit a 2015 article from Bleeding Cool, a publication I know many of you take issue with, and rightfully so, but credit where credit is due. They nailed this story. Welcome to Feige Island, and they did so before anyone else. Almost a decade ago, they wrote about how Kevin Feige systematically gets rid of everyone who disagrees with him, and how that is detrimental to the MCU, because if Feige had listened to the Marvel Creative Committee, which he then had just gotten rid of, tens of millions that were spent on Age of Ultron reshoots could have been saved. The article asked in reference to Kevin Feige getting rid of the Marvel Creative Committee, which I have repeatedly argued is the single fateful decision that ruined the MCU. How did Feige manage to strong-arm Disney into this decision? Because it has left him far more secure on Feige Island, with less inconvenient critical voices. If Feige doesn't answer to Marvel, i.e. Ike Perlmutter, who does he answer to? As a former employee to Marvel's film division said to me, if you want a target on your back, just say no to Kevin. The reason I bring that almost decade-old article back up now is that, as we just saw in Variety, among the 15 just fired were presumably the last in Marvel which may have thought like Ike Perlmutter, so not like Kevin Feige. Meaning the last that could have disagreed with and challenged Feige on ideas that really need to be challenged. The others who were let go were mostly junior staff and writers, and they weren't going to disagree with Feige anyway. If they were, they would have been let go long time ago. So, what these findings ultimately mean is that outside of the symbolic virtue signal to the market that the sacrifice has been made, so hopefully the movie gods will bless Marvel now, is that their big overriding problem by all outwardly appearances was just made worse, namely that there's no one left to challenge Kevin Feige. As I have demonstrated in earlier videos, contrary to popular misconception, Kevin Feige is not the architect of the MCU. Even if he wasn't there, the MCU would still have happened, and certainly Phase 1 would even have looked much the same. Kevin Feige was just one cog in the machine that built the MCU, and a replaceable cog at that. But he was able to leverage the success of the MCU to get rid of far more important cogs than himself, and increasingly to force his vision and his ideas for the MCU. And while we on the outside didn't know it at the time, the first taste of Kevin Feige's MCU was Captain Marvel. Indeed, while spurred on by Victoria Alonso, Kevin Feige is the architect behind the MCU, and he was the one who bragged already back in 2018 about how the MCU would soon have a majority of female heroes. No one took his warning seriously at the time, but in retrospect, we can now see that Kevin Feige wasn't joking. But let's stop looking back in time, and instead shift our gaze forwards and towards why these recent Marvel firings won't do anything. You see, the problem for the MCU wasn't these 15 people that just lost their jobs in a Hollywood in crisis and contraction. It was Kevin Feige. Or more specifically, it was that Kevin Feige got rid of anyone that could keep his more boneheaded and woke ideas in check. Because Feige being allowed to do exactly what he wanted is what destroyed the MCU. Everything else, such as that the quality took a hit because too much was pumped out on Disney+, is just an excuse. The problem with the likes of Echo, Secret Invasion, and She-Hulk isn't that they were rushed, but that they were made at all, and it was Kevin Feige who wanted them, and who wanted them in the form that they were made. The new talking point for the upcoming Captain America movie, starring Falcon as Captain America, one they doubled down on during CinemaCon, is that it sets out a refreshing new direction for not just Captain America, but for the entirety of the MCU, which is how they try to sell that the whole movie, which was in the can, is being reshot more or less in its entirety, as a good thing. And that actually might have been a good thing if there had been some major creative changes in personnel behind the scenes, but alas, there hasn't been. The new direction for Captain America is still courtesy of Kevin Feige, who was also ultimately behind the previous and failed direction. And needless to say, he is also the architect between all of Phase 4 and Phase 5, which ended the MCU's global reign. So why should anyone believe Kevin Feige will suddenly get it right this time, now when there's even fewer left to challenge his ideas, which so obviously need challenging? To be clear, I'm not opposed to firings in Marvel. Just like Disney at large, many more firings are sorely needed. But those firings need to begin not at the bottom of the ladder, but at the very top, because that is where the real problem lies. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments.